Welcome. You are watching Line Screw 1.
Dan, it looked pretty ugly out there today. You're usually bullish on the potential for technology, but this picture is complicated, not just by the dollar impact of the tariffs, but by what happens to brand America around the globe, where even this software has to be sold, no?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's essentially an economic Armageddon.
Well, hello, tubers. Hope you're doing well wherever you are in this crazy YouTube universe. So, how many of you guys watched Liberation Day yesterday? Quite a fascinating day, especially today in the markets. Got up early, saw the FTSE and the DAX take a shit dump, and I saw the futures market in New York take a shit dump.
At this moment in time, with the market down 1,238 points right now on the Dow Industrials and the NASDAQ down 800 right now, and the market's not even open.
And I'm like, wow, buy the dip, buy the dip. Trump's doing a lot for us in terms of giving us an opportunity to buy the dip. Of course, you know, catching a falling knife can be a dangerous thing, so it's a question of, you know, you got to decide when your exit and entry point is into the market. But definitely Trump's given us opportunities. Now, for those who don't have cash, yeah, I guess it's a problem. But anyway, I just want to know what everybody's take is on Liberation Day and of the tariffs. And the number one question, because, you know, full disclosure, I am a Trump supporter. Full disclosure, can America afford these Trumps? Because see, these tariffs are crazy, where people are starting to realize, well, hey, we actually got to pay these tariffs. Yes, you do, but it could be an act of patriotism. Now, you know, Trump's a politician. He's not a perfect human being. He's just a regular person, and maybe he got a few things wrong. Maybe he did. It's all about whether Americans can afford to pay these tariffs, because as people are starting to realize, you know, these tariffs are paid at the border by consumers. Now, it's going to take a while for all these costs to come through the supply lines and to make things more expensive, but taking on the entire world at anything is very, very difficult. Look, my people tried to take over the world twice, okay? They were not successful. You know, I'm German, obviously. So, you know, Rome tried to take over the known world. Didn't last forever. Nothing lasts forever. Even the great Republic of America is at great jeopardy, and probably, well, this is what I'm thinking. Correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, you pull up the old debt clock, and I remember years ago when Obama got in, and I saw the debt go from 10 trillion to 13 in the first 100 days of his administration, and I thought, whoa, that's crazy. Now it's like, hold my beer. 36 trillion. And that's before we even start talking about state debt, corporate debt, municipal debt, student loan debt, car loan debt, credit card debt. Oh, that's another juicy one. There is so much debt. Now, in terms of sovereign debt, you always got to remember that it's foreigners also that buy American sovereign debt. And with this tariff war, well, are you going to see some of the foreign markets say, hey, we ain't going to buy that sovereign debt anymore? Could happen. Absolutely could happen. Don't kid yourself. And when you're taking on the entire world, see, America, because I've spent a lot of time in the United States, like essentially my second home. America, you see this in the media, it's very inwardly focused. And it's easy to forget that the rest of the world just can do the business with the rest of the world. And you're seeing certain companies where it's not even the tariffs, it's just their products aren't even being sold anymore in foreign markets, because certain countries and certain people and businesses are even just making decisions to say, hey, it's not worth the hassle. We'll buy a similar product from somewhere else and screw the tariffs. Now, I think all countries of the world should be as self-sufficient as possible. Hell, I talk about the nomad community and how they're always e-begging and expecting others to pay their way. It's no sustainable way of living. And the biggest threat to American sovereignty is debt. Yeah, It's dead. And there's just so much of it. Now, the brilliant thing that Trump could do, these tariffs will actually generate a lot of money. Billions of dollars, in fact. But it will be paid for by the American people. So, thankfully with COVID and supply line bullshit, people are used to having prices constantly going up. So, prices are going to go up with these tariffs. Yeah, they will. So, will it be stagflation? Economy's not really growing like it used to. And as long as the American people can afford to pay for all these tariffs, I guess it'll work. Especially if you start retiring some of the sovereign debt. Could be a brilliant move, but it is a political move. And the million-dollar question is, will people be able to stomach all these costs? And it's on everything. It's the whole world. You know? Well, for the first time, I guess Canadians can buy a Japanese car or a motorcycle a lot cheaper than Americans. There's probably going to be a lot of smuggling going on with goods, you know. If you know your history, tariffs didn't really work out very well for the American folks earlier in the 20th century.
In 1930, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives, in an effort to alleviate the effects of the, anyone? The Great Depression, passed the, anyone? A tariff bill, the Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act, which, anyone raised or lowered? Raised tariffs in an effort to collect more revenue for the federal government. Did it work? Anyone? Anyone know the effects? It did not work, and the United States sank deeper into the Great Depression. Today, we have a similar debate over this. Anyone know what this is, class? Anyone? Anyone? Anyone seen this before? The Laffer curve. Anyone know what this says? It says that at this point on the revenue curve, you will get exactly the same amount of revenue as at this point. This is very controversial. Does anyone know what Vice President Bush called this in 1980? Anyone? Something DOO economics. Voodoo economics.
But it is bold if you can hold the course, and if people can couch the tariffs as a patriotic act, where you are paying more as a patriot because you have to pay down this debt, and you can't just tack it on to income tax. No, you can't. No, that's not politically popular. Not at all. So you put it on the consumption side and just tariff the crap out of everything. And unfortunately, the US of A is not self-sufficient in everything it needs, because the horse has left the barn. And how are you going to actually, in fact, bring manufacturing back when Americans demand a higher standard of living? Now, perhaps if Trump got rid of a minimum wage and safety, laws and things like that, and got minimum wage down to $2 an hour, there'd be a big boom. But I don't see that happening.
The reality is, if you want an iPhone made in the U.S. and you want that for $3,500, we should make it in the U.S. If you want it for $1,000, you keep it in China. So I think these are all the issues that investors are trying to sort of game out.
Most of the manufacturing now is done by cheap labor, because people want cheap things. Nobody wants to pay full price anymore. And even as it is, a lot of manufacturing is done by automation. It's not the 1960s and 70s anymore. Everything's done by machines. So even if you manage to coax back a little bit of the manufacturing, it's not going to be like there's millions of jobs for everybody to service the robots. There are going to be millions of those jobs. Most of the jobs are going to be done by robots. And sure, there's going to be millwrights and technicians and robotic experts that will have some of the jobs, but automation really takes away from workers' opportunities. It's just the way it is. And do you want to pay for American craftsmanship? Now, for example, I'm a guitarist. I love American-made guitars. I've seen what the Asian-made stuff looks like and the Mexican-made stuff. The coveted stuff is from US of A, but you're paying a premium. There's just no way around it. So bring back some of the manufacturing, but it's going to be expensive because we don't pay people like shit wages in North America. No, we don't. So the horse has left the barn, and what are you going to do? It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. But it's probably the last opportunity for the Republic to start tackling the debt crisis, because the power of compound interest is just going to kill everything. And you look on the debt clock for just federal debt per taxpayer, it's over $300,000. It's crazy. And then you got the population, you know, slowing down, and you're gonna have less taxpayers every year paying for all the benefits. And then let's talk about the unfunded liabilities, all the looming debts of future generations going on to Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. It's breathtaking. It's breathtaking. As it is, the kids today, they don't want to die for the country, nor do they want to pay the debts of the previous generations. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So at least Trump is making America pay. Like he's built a tariff wall, and he's making Americans pay for it. That's what he's doing. But I guess it's only fair. Like if I rack up my credit card, I gotta pay it, right? It's either that or complete insolvency. And I don't think America wants to go insolvent and destroy their credit rating in the world and have the faith and credit of the federal government be diminished, because that's what would happen if there was a default. So really, that's where we're at. It's a crazy situation. So my question to you, especially, you know, my audience skews to the right and they tend to be conservative or Republican or libertarian. Can America afford to pay the tariffs on everything? You know, there's just so much stuff that's behind the scenes, parts within parts, and energy, potash to grow food. So much stuff coming from so many places around the world. And here's the dirty secret. You always see this happen. If, for example, let's just say softwood lumber. If less softwood lumber is coming across the border from, say, Canada, the local suppliers, they're glad to sell you American softwood lumber, but they're gonna say, hey, tariff, bro. We only got so much wood to sell. Prices are up, dude. You either pay or don't pay. So now I guess you could live in a, you know, a very meager, austere life and just hunker down and grow your own food and try to avoid tariffs. You know, don't buy any new Japanese cars or things like that. You could do that, but for how long? For how long? Because everybody's gonna have to pay a little bit of that tariff. Now, luckily, us older people, like my audience is skewed to be older, we're all gonna be dead in 20 years anyway. So it's not a big deal for most of us. And most of my audience that I know, we're not living hand to mouth. We get extra money. We can afford to pay these tariffs. So, and then you add to the fact that the world's boycotting the United States in terms of tourism. A lot of jobs are going down the dumper. And 401ks diminishing in value. But like I said earlier in the video, it's a buying opportunity. And somebody's going to have to thank Trump for that. So start catching the falling knives. And at some point, things will turn around. Don't they always, right? They always do. So I'm seeing some great bargains out there. So luckily I got some cash, and you know, dust off your brokerage account, folks. Start making purchases. Get ready. Now, things could get a lot worse before they get better. Obviously true, but in the meantime, can America afford to take on the entire world and pay those tariffs? I don't know. But if you do, and you pay it for years and years, and you start tackling your debt, only good things are going to happen, obviously. But it's a question of politically, can people stomach that price tag? I don't know, because the rest of the world is just going to do business with the rest of the world. And the rest of the world is a mighty big place. So put your comments down below. Hope you guys are doing well, and I'll talk to you soon. Over and out.
Because a lot of these rates are very high. And I guess the question from here, Megan, is just what the pain threshold is for this administration. I know they say they're not watching the stock market, but we're down 4.75% right now on the NASDAQ. And the economy, like, okay, there's an adjustment. We could have a recession, but I'm not sure that they would want something deeper than.
Can go to figure out what we've done, what we need to do. Yeah, I got you, I got you, I got you.